We're back to the Neil Haley show. And, when I'm talking about this guest, I'm talking about, I interview all these major celebrities. But when I think about Pitt football, I think about one guy, especially his great career, and I'm rooting him on all the time. Tyler Palko, former NFL player and Pitt star. Tyler, thanks for stopping by. How are you, man?
Neil, great. Thanks for having me. It's awesome. I definitely am going to be underwhelming if you're interviewing top celebrities. So
exactly. I mean, from Brett Favre to anybody you can name that you've watched the show or a different thing. But again, I get more excited about Pitt. Why? Because I'm a Pittsburgh guy. My mom went to Pitt, and I grew up season ticket holder for football and basketball for years. And it's just something about Pitt. But we know all your story, and kind of just jumping back, I know it a lot when it comes to, Pittsburgh. Your dad, a football coach. It's just from the beginning, you probably had your mind you were going to go to Pitt, right?
Yeah, I wish I could say that. I was fortunate enough to have, the recruiting process start a little earlier. My freshman year, I think I had, probably 8 or 10 offers, because we played on a really good team, and so that process started a little early for me. But it wasn't until I kind of figured out, that I wanted to be part of rebuilding my hometown team. I met Coach Harris, and he was the kind of quarterback guru at that time. And, I wanted to be part of bringing kind of the lore and the luster back to Pitt. So when I committed, it was kind of, after a day on campus at the Pitt quarterback receiver camp. And I woke up one morning and just kind of said, this is where I need to be. So glad it was a great decision for me. And unfortunately we weren't able to kind of get it all the way back, but it's fun to see them on top again with Kenny and Coach Dews. So everything works out.
So this is just such an interesting story in so many ways that, Walt bringing back the program and all these different things where you were highly recruited by so many more schools than just Pitt, right? And just choosing Pitt. You're glad you did. It was a great decision, but who else was recruiting you?
I think at the time, my dad and I we got it down to probably, 7 or 8 schools. So it was Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, LSU, Florida State. I think Oklahoma might've been in the mix, USC. But I think at that time, before all this social media stuff, they went through the quote unquote, college football ranking magazine of like, where you're at. And at that point in time, I was a I guess highly ranked quarterback, but I was an athlete, and I played free safety and was an all-state free safety. So there was a couple of schools that wanted me to play free safety. And a funny story, Coach Saban, recruited me at Michigan State and then at LSU, and he would always tell my dad, this kid could play free safety. And I had a bunch of coaches tell me, wow, I just don't know if you can play quarterback. And when you're an 18-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, someone tells you can't do something, you're a hard head and you want to do it. But I asked Coach Saban after that, why he thought that I was a better free safety. And he said, after every interception, you made the tackle. So it was kind of a backhanded compliment. But yeah, I think those were the final schools. I can't remember offhand, but I committed before my senior year, so I didn't take any official visits. I didn't want to be a distraction to my team going into that year. We had lost in the state championship game the previous 2 years, so I just wanted to get a decision off the table, not be a distraction, and go finish the business and win in the state title of my senior year.
Playing with your father, that's got to be great, right? In so many ways.
Yep. Was fortunate enough to play for a legendary coach, and he just happened to be my dad. So there were some dinner conversations that were less than ideal, but it was awesome, playing for him. Looking back at it and having 4 kids of my own, knowing how special that is now, being a father for him and for me. But as a coach, I still call him Coach Palk when I see him. So he made a huge impact in my life as a player and as a man, and obviously as a dad. So he's impacted a lot of kids over the 30 plus years he's been coaching. So I just feel fortunate that I had him as a coach and a dad. So it was cool.
All right. Fondest memories of, playing at Pitt. What would you say?
I get that question asked a lot. I mean, obviously, I think that the 5 touchdown game against Notre Dame gets a lot of hype, especially with the post game snafu that happened. But my biggest memory at Pitt, the turning point of my career, was the Nebraska game at Heinz Field when I got benched for a series. It kind of got me to open up my eyes and realize, hey, just go out and play football like you've done your whole entire life. So that was probably the biggest turning point in my career, my football career. And that just happened to be at Pitt. But we had some really cool moments to, beating Notre Dame at Notre Dame, winning the Big East and playing in a BCS game for the first time. And since Danny left with a Sugar Bowl, but there were some really, really good memories. I just was telling you before we hopped on, I just was sad we couldn't finish the job. Walt got fired by an athletic director who I was not happy with, and kind of screwed up that momentum that we had. But it was a good 5 years. I don't regret anything about it. It was super fun, and glad to be a part of the Pitt lore and the history of that tradition-rich program.
Thinking back to teammates of yours and just the experiences at Pitt, was that something that's, because we're going to get to the NFL next, because a lot of people don't know the backstory in your NFL career, because you were a backup, but you got a lot of opportunity and had a lot of success, meaning not many people get the opportunity to play in the NFL. Bottom line, that's the bottom line. But tell me, specifically, some of your teammates you played with and how you stayed connected with them throughout,
college or in the NFL?
College.
Yeah, well, I mean, my best friend, college roommate was Larry Fitzgerald. So I mean, I don't think that kind of that name kind of
yes,
speaks for itself. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's a guy that I still stay close with. He's a godfather of my youngest daughter, and
oh wow,
was in my wedding, and just a good human being, great man, and to be around greatness like that at an early age. I think a lot of times you hear people say you just knew he was different, and he's no different in that statement. I mean, he dropped one ball in practice in 2 years, one.
oh my gosh.
And when I'm talking about, warm-ups and pat and go, and I mean, the guy just had an unbelievable set of hands. So Larry's probably the most prominent, but we played with a lot of good players that had a chance to take the next step to the NFL. Some All-Americans, H.B. Blades, Scott McKillop, Gerald Hayes, Rod Rutherford, played in the NFL. I backed him up early on in my career. So we played with a lot of Rob Petiti, a lot of really good players that I still stay in contact with. And now that we're, old and washed up and moving on, we're dads.
Don't say you're old, because I remember when I was watching you play. You know what I mean?
It's a relative term. It's football years, right? It's kind of like
I know.
But yeah, those guys, it's fun to see them, becoming dads and husbands and businessmen and coaches, and that's the fun part for me to stay connected, to see what they were like in college and trying to figure it out, and now productive members of society and doing some great things. So that's the thing that I miss the most, the locker room. It's a constant search to try to find that little fix that you had as a teammate in the locker room.
Yeah. So that experience in the NFL comes because you had a great experience, brought Pitt football to a certain level that is beyond belief. NFL time comes. Did you think you were going to play in the NFL? Did you have hopes of the NFL? What was your mindset? Because you had a really great career in college, but you understand the whole process of what I'm sure they talked about other positions for you and stuff, Tyler, and same thing, making that decision, the step to the NFL. Did you think you'd have a career, or what were your thoughts during college, especially at certain times?
Yeah, I mean, my sophomore year was a really good year. I think that next year I was on a Heisman watch list. And again, that stuff's all, BS when it comes down to rankings, but I knew that I was going to have a chance to play, where I got drafted and all that other stuff was based off of things that were outside of my control. But I knew I was going to have a chance to do it. Matt Kavanaugh, who came in after they fired Walt with Coach Wannstedt, helped really kind of turn me into a professional quarterback in the way that I, approached the game. And then I got invited to the Senior Bowl. And so I knew that it was something in the cards for me. And then, just I didn't get drafted. I was a free agent and ended up going to New Orleans and backing up Drew with Sean Payton, which was I don't think I could have gone to a better place to learn how to be a professional quarterback behind Drew Brees and Sean Payton. So it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I was able to kind of fight and scrap and claw and last a couple of years, living out my childhood dream, and got a chance to start a couple of games in the NFL as a starting quarterback with the Chiefs. And but the majority of my time was carrying a clipboard and patting guys on the ass when they came off the field. So it was fun.
Yeah, but see, that's the best job, right? Some people say the next best job.
No, I don't care what.
That's not true. You'd rather start. I understand.
No,
I'm just saying, but the experience, what you learn from this experience, getting to play, let's talk about, getting to play Drew Brees and have, in that, what did you learn from Drew? I mean, I'm sure these certain people were great role models for you in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to back up some really good players. I mean, Drew, Kurt Warner in Arizona, Ben in Pittsburgh, Matt Castle in Kansas City. I mean, he learned from Tom Brady. So, Drew just, taught you how to be a pro. I mean, I got a chance to ride with him to work. I lived with him for a couple of weeks, in between mini camp and OTAs and all that stuff. So, just to see how he approaches the game as a professional, he was the first guy that I heard say, I got to go to work, and he was going to practice. And so, just, hey, it's work. This is my craft. This is how I make my money. And how he approached watching tape and taking care of his body and being a good husband. He was a great role model for me in that respect to be a rookie, a young guy in the NFL, to see how it's done. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have, an easy pathway there either. So it was cool to see, my first couple of years in the NFL, how to do it the right way. So Drew was a great role model. He's a great man, great dad, great husband. Stay in contact with him every once in a while. But like I said, couldn't have asked to go to a better place. And Sean Payton, just, the genius he is as an offensive mind. I know I thought I knew a lot about football growing up around it. And I did, but those 2 years in New Orleans were, I learned more football in 2 years there than I did, my whole entire life. So it was a great experience.
Wow. Okay. And so your last stop, and we're going to get to life after football, because it's always interesting to me in a short time we have, because I would love to chat with you again, Tyler, because again, just tremendous guy. You're very, very humble in so many ways for the accolades you had in your college career to get to play in the NFL and what you've learned from these specific great players that you were able to play under and play with. You ended up in Kansas City, and that ended up being where your home is now. Tell me specifically enough, the experience in Kansas City made that happen. Kind of tell us a little bit of that story, and then we'll talk about life after football. So you,
yeah,
were they your last team?
Yeah, the Chiefs were. Yeah, I brought Todd Haley. I was with him in Arizona, and when he got the job, I had a chance to compete for a backup role there, and came in and did my first year, and then the second year I was there, stayed on and was the primary backup to Matt. So Todd gave me an opportunity to live out my dream, and Matt got hurt, at the end of the season and broke his wrist or his hand. And I remember where I was at when Todd called me and said, "Hey kid, it's your time. You got the keys." And so I think I started 5 or 6 games that year. And Kansas, I ended up meeting my wife and who my wife is now. We have 4 kids, and she's born and raised in Kansas City. So I've been here since 2012, I think 2013, raising our family out here in Kansas City. But yeah, Kansas City will always be a special place, right? I mean, it's the first time I got a chance to say that I was a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's where home is now. So it was a cool experience. And that's kind of where life has taken me.
So life after football, why the decision to retire, and do you have plans of what you wanted to do?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but the whole word retire, like that in football terms, that just means, for most of us, that no one wants you anymore. So it's a relative term when you say retire, forced retirement maybe, but Chuck Noll said it the best. Football is a small part of your life, and you're going to spend the vast majority of your life after football achieving your life's work. And when I was done, I did a couple of things in the NFL with some internships in the off season that they were so graciously, they were readily available to you. But ultimately finalized on, getting into the business world in with a company called Solutions 21 that our founder, Buddy Hobart, who's a Pittsburgh guy, CMU guy from Homestead, started in 1994. And, long story short, we figured out that we had a lot of commonality between what we wanted to do, and we're a human capital development firm. So essentially we're the strength coach in football terms for companies developing their existing and future leaders for their organization. So I figured that instead of getting fired after a bad season and having to move to a new city, that I can control my outcomes a little bit better in the business world, and we're growing it and doing some really cool things at Solutions 21. So that's in a nutshell, that's what we're doing now.
So what is ultimately, so that entrepreneurship mindset and all that, did you have that growing up? Do you ever think sports brings to it?
I've always been inquisitive about business. I was playing golf in the off season with these, presidents and CEOs of companies, and I was a NFL quarterback. So I could have, I can ask questions that, business peers couldn't, right? I was, well, how do you guys, build your business? How do you compete? Like, how do you beat your rivals? And I was just inquisitive at that point in my life, and figured out they didn't really have like a very formalized plan, right? Like in the NFL, your nutrition and your weight room and film study, and that's how you develop into a really good player. And I felt in the business world there was no real predictable way to develop talent, and I was like, man, I want to start my own company. And that led me to meet Buddy Hobart, who's the founder of our company, through mutual friends, and we just had lunch out in Phoenix, Arizona, and he was going to just kind of help me start my own gig. But a couple of bottles of wine later, we figured out that it would probably be best to, build onto a house that's already built and existing than build your own house. And, 10 years later, here I am.
And here you are. Where do you want to see Solutions 21 go? What is the ultimate goal?
Yeah, ultimately, we want to be the firm of choice that organizations look to develop world-class performers. We're the best in the business right now, and we believe that internally. But just like any other brand that you build, you have to get other people to believe it. And we're doing a hell of a job right now with our team to show that the talent that we have on our team and the products that we have, no one can really compete with. So we're grinding away and growing like crazy. And ultimately, we'll we want our brand associated with world-class performers, and any organization that wants to develop those types of people are gonna reach out to us. So that's what we want to do.
So where do you see that? So kind of give me the specifics, like what industries are you focused mostly on? Is there a specific area you're
in? So primarily we're in like the privately held mid-market sector when we started, but we have, if you were to audit our company, we're in basically 4 or 5 industries: construction, manufacturing, banking, insurance, and then medical. So, any business that's associated with it, whether it's an insurance broker that has 250 people, or a bank that's a publicly traded bank that has, 20,000 employees, they all are still fighting the same fight with, I can't find enough talent, I can't keep enough talent, and I can't develop enough talent. With the environment that we're involved in business right now, that has 2 big variables: this post-COVID environment remote work, hybrid approach to work, remote management, and then the massive amount of baby boomers that are exiting the workforce. 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 a day until the end of this decade. So there's a bunch of people that have built, this business environment that are marching toward retirement or already have one foot out the door. And organizations from a sports standpoint haven't built their bench strong enough to be able to sustain that. So that's kind of where we fit.
So do you think, Tyler, it's the fact is it's the talent pool is low because of the baby boomers getting out and then remote work and other people looking at entrepreneurship and not enough talent developed?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. It's numbers. There's not enough Gen Xers and not enough Gen Xers to replace baby boomers. There's a 18 million person gap between baby boomers and Gen Xers. And then, there's a massive amount of millennials, Gen Y, 84 million that are, my age, right? 1980 to 2000, born that are in the prime of their career. And organizations have traditionally kind of done the bide your time, wait behind a person in line, climb the corporate ladder. And that's just not the environment that businesses are operating now. Competition, speed, and talent retention are just, they look different now. So people are going to have to start adjusting their strategy on how they acquire talent, develop talent, and keep talent, retain it. And we've kind of written the book on how to do that in the 21st century. Buddy Hobart, our founder, has written 5 or 6 books on this topic. And, we're kind of the pioneers in this space. So it's pretty
very
cool.
interesting, because that's the thing, getting people to work, keeping your employees there, having them be satisfied. And so from your company's perspective, you're really looking inside that company and how they're developing, training, and trying to retain talent. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a different strategy, right? So you think about it from a football standpoint, the Bill Belichick has had to adapt his philosophy over the 30 plus years he's been coaching in the NFL. And, the way that he coached in 1995 is drastically different than the way he coaches now. Same thing. There's some things that hold true, right? Discipline, the right culture fit, but, the players have changed. So you're going to have to adapt how you coach them, adapt how you recruit them, adapt how you develop them. You don't have 3-day practices anymore. You have maybe 1 a day, and then you don't have the same, rules of the game. You can't hit the way you used to. So business is no different. And the rules have changed to the game. The rules have changed. And if you don't play by the rules that the game requires now, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And that's just the way that we've looked at it. It's not that people won't work. It's that you have to find people, you have to get them, bought into what you're doing. You have to, get them, under a microscope of how do you develop them? How do you make it productive for them to help you, rather than, hey, you should just be thankful to have a job. It's just old school versus new school. And it doesn't mean old school is bad and new school is good. It just means that the rules have changed and you need to adapt to the rules that the environment requires. So we've done an unbelievable job of figuring out how to help organizations do that and develop their bench of talent to go win ball games. And that's,
so you also are in the process of finding right talent for the company as well.
We're not headhunters, but we've helped organizations develop the strategy to not be so dependent on old school ways of finding talent. So it's different, right? So again, if you relate it back to sports, right, you don't need, like, YouTube has been able to show highlight reels of people, what they can do, but that talent on that highlight reel doesn't tell the whole story. So it's different, right, on how you recruit talent.
I see. So you work with the organization and their human resources to find the right talent, but not do it. You're not headhunting. You're more saying, this is what's going to be the best piece for that company fit the right place. This is where you're
here's
certain.
yeah here's the type of players that you need to recruit based off of what you told me, and then once they get into the organization, we develop them, right? We're the strength coach. We help develop, the raw skills to develop them into future managers and future leaders and future executives within that organization. So we're the strength coach of that organization, and help them figure out the strategy of what kind of players do we recruit, what type of offense do we run, right? What type of defense do we run? And then what type of players do you need to develop or to recruit so we can make them into productive players on the field? Everything I learned in this business, I learned by the time I was 18. It's just now adapting it into the vernacular of the business world.
All right. So best place we can find information on you and Solutions 21. Where can we go?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Neil. It's just solutions21.com. We're a national company headquartered in Pittsburgh. We have offices in Kansas City and Phoenix, Tampa, Jacksonville, and Nashville. But yeah, solutions21.com. And then all the LinkedIn and Twitter and all the other handles are just Solutions21. So appreciate the opportunity for that shout out.
And they can reach out to you on LinkedIn if they want.
Yeah, LinkedIn, or, it's just tpalko@solutions21.com. I've had the same cell phone number since I was 18. So it's if you've had my cell phone, it hasn't changed.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Tyler. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, bud.
All right. You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back.